Okay, this is going to be about mud fossils, and mud fossils are something that is really a new way of looking at the Earth and about the universe. Actually, everything you see here was living creatures at one time. They're parts of living creatures, and I made this discovery years ago, several years ago at least, and I've been investigating it ever since. Now, my background, I need to explain why I feel comfortable about discussing this, because my background is in electronics, and deep into electronics, where you're into the bonding and the molecular interactions, all the electronic things of life, which is life. Life is pluses and minuses. It's crystals, and all crystals are have different quantum numbers depending upon the exact crystal it is, and the quantum number are the created because of the angular proportions of the crystals, and those, I believe, are sacred geometry. And sacred geometry is something written of in the ancient texts and laughed at, but I believe this is what it boils down to, because this is the building blocks of life. Quantum is something that we're going to go over, because you have to understand it. If you don't understand quantum, you literally don't have a clue about anything that you look at, because everything is molecules, everything's atoms, and depending upon what liquid goes on it, or what kind of acids, or the molecular makeup of the particular material you're talking about, it interacts totally different with other molecules and other chemicals. And pH, the acidity of things. Everybody knows about pH and this and that, and acidity and caustic, but really the nature of that's the bonding. That's acids go in and they have extra electrons. Well, one or the other. The acids and bases, one has the electrons and one has the protons. It doesn't matter. One of them wants electrons, one of them doesn't want electrons. It wants to get rid of electrons. So that's how bonding happens. One says, hey, I got some electrons. And the other says, well, I really could use some. And they say, okay, well, let's work together. Now, what happens when they bond? When they bond, they can do one of two things. They can be loosely bonded, and we just hang out together and do this and that, and if somebody else better comes along, I'm leaving. Or sometimes you just have one of those really hookups, which you just can't ignore. You're stuck together forever, and that's stability. It's stability in your own life, and it's stability in electrons and protons and the whole universe. So everybody's trying to find a stable relationship, and the same thing with electrons and protons and molecules and atoms. Now, the reason I'm going to just show you this, and just to prove to you that I do have some background in this. This was, I did all this for years and years and years, and like I say, I'm from the electronics industry. So the electronics industry is all about crystals and electronic interactions, and that's what all of this stuff is about. And I did this for years and years and years and years, and you can see from the color of the paper, it's been a long time, and I liked it and I enjoyed it, and I still do, and I did all the chemical calculations and all this business, and I still do all these things, not like I did before in the past. I just don't have that, I just can't get that deep into it anymore. But my background, just to go a little deeper into my background, what I did was, I was in the electronics industry, and I was a field engineer, and I owned my own businesses after that. But in the beginning, it was trying to understand electronics in the workplace. It was business machines is what I worked on. And I worked on the first electronics that came into the United States, the very first ones. And there was a lot of trouble. There was all kinds of electrostatic discharge problems where the chips were, the first chips I ran on were 17 volts. We were working with chips that were ran on 17 volts. They take them out of the car and bring them into the guy's office, and they plug it in and explode because they would be cold. This is another thing about cold causes cascades of electrons. It decreases the resistance in anything as it gets colder and colder. So we found out that at 32 degrees or something, a calculator or a computer, these little microprocessors they were making back then, would explode, literally explode. The chip would pop right off because the current running through that chip was supposed to be so minute, but in these high conductive conditions, it would literally explode. So anyway, they finally went from 17 volts down to 5 volts. And at 5 volts, everything's pretty stable. You can plug something in when it's cold and it really doesn't explode anymore. No. What I'm getting at is there is so much complexity when you get down to the molecular level that you have to understand that before you can go up to the full-size level that we live in. And once you understand the molecules, how they bond and how they react in the cold, and if some volcanic acids got on them, what it would do to them, and as the volatile organic compounds, the gushy stuff in your body, vaporizes, what's left over. These are the kind of things we're going to go over, and this is all due to quantum. It's all quantum, and it's all understandable. There's nothing here that's really hard to understand, and I'm going to make it simple for you because I don't care about all these big words. I'll throw them in here and there, but don't even care about it. There's a principle here, and the principle is how do things turn into other things. We know that everything is made out of electrons and protons and neutrons. Let's go with that. I mean, I'm just assuming that that is all true because it does appear in quantum to truly react in the nature described. And that is one of the only things in science. Every time you ever hear anything in science, all you hear is, oh, the scientists were totally amazed to find this. Well, they're amazed at everything because they're wrong about everything, because they started from the fact that everything is dust and dirt and rocks and has no life, never was alive, just all collected and gushed together, and then little things started growing out of it. No, it's nothing like that. It's life from day one. The universe is a living organism. Case closed. Nobody can dispute the evidence that there is living body parts in space. The common 67P, absolutely no question. It's a tendon at this point. Meteorites coming through space. They're landing on Earth with literal DNA in them from who knows where. Could be some of those horse guys. Some of those guys with horns and fuzzy legs and those perpetual lifted eyebrows. Who knows what it is? We have no idea. So, and nobody's looking. So, that's what I'm going to do, is start talking about things. Life is life. You just have to go for the truth. If you avoid the truth, you're living in another universe than me, my friends, because I am in a truthful universe, in a universe that's consisted of life, and I can prove this. I have proven it scientifically to any standard that has ever existed. I have 3 DNA tests. I have 7 CAT scans. I have recreated the process in a laboratory. I have expert anatomists. I have everything. Physical specimens coming out of my ears. And it's all proven, and it's being ignored because what it does is it can totally destroys literally everything in science right now. Literally everything. So, this is not just a monkey bone. Oh boy, look, the guy found a monkey bone. No. Things in space are alive. Planets are alive. Literally. And I mean literally. Blood and guts alive. I'm not talking about just sort of looking like it's maybe sort of a thing like life. No. This is life. And Velikovsky, I'm going to show that he was correct. That his interpretation of what history apparently was, and now has been misconstrued, his opinion and his research shows that it's likely very, very true that Venus is only 3,500 years old, and that all the things they said in the ancient texts were fairly accurate. And I've always believed this because nobody does that kind of work and that devotion and those illuminated texts and creates monasteries and spends their whole life writing out a page. No, there's a devotion there that transcends any just silly little stories trying to scare kids. This is serious. And now we got to look at it as a serious business. This is not something just to fluffy, silly kitten stories. If it was, you get millions of hits on the internet, but you get 6. It's incredible. But anyway, people have to open their minds, and that's what this is going to be about. And Mudfossils opens the minds of everybody if they look at them, because this is physical, it's evidence, it cannot be ignored. If it's looked at, it's ignored, but it can't be if it's taken seriously and scrutinized and investigated. And after that, let it go where it goes. I'm not saying you have to believe anything I'm saying. I would like you to look at it, because it's been proven to every standard that exists and way beyond. And still Yale refuses, Harvard refuses, they all refuse. University of Texas, Johns Hopkins, every one of them. And to me, that is not right. It's not right at all. And I think you hopefully feel the same way, because, you know, I like to hear things that are truthful, and I like to know what's real. Not just be taught opinions that we all know those opinions are crazy, the things they say about the past. Insane. 2 gold guys with a broomstick and a copper chisel made the pyramids. You know, I mean, come on. We got to wake up and really investigate what is really there with an open mind and true scientific approach. Not, oh, the guy's a fool, he's just running off at the mouth, showing off. No, this is true stuff. That's it. That's all I have to say.